Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the Moviescramble podcast. This is the first episode in a new series where we are calling it collaborations more than anything else. We are talking to other podcasters, broadcasters, basically anybody that replied to our mass email that we sent out there. We are going to be talking about the films that ignited a spark for our guests in terms of, it may not be the first film that they ever saw, but it's the film that they regard as being the one that really sort of turned them on to cinema and made them realise what a great art form it is. So today I am joined, as always, by my co-host Mary, but I am also joined today by Sarah Williams, who is a podcaster and contributor. She does stuff for the Nordic Watch List, and also she has her own podcast in that it's called Sarah's Popcorn Chat, which is heartily recommended. I listened to 3 episodes of it today just to get myself introduced, which was really nice, actually. So we'll start off with Mary. Mary, how you doing? You all right?
I'm really well. It's been like just over 24 hours since I saw you last, John. So I'm feeling getting my fix this week.
Nice. And Sarah, if you'd like to just introduce yourself, give us a wee bit of your background and stuff like that, that would be ideal. So we can introduce it to, well, we always joke that we've got 1 listener, but I think we now have maybe about 3 or 4 listeners, and they would be very interested to hear another voice.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, I mean, John, you introduced me so beautifully there. But yeah, my name's Sarah. I run Popcorn Chat. I post all over the internet on various social media platforms, talking about the latest films, TV shows, latest crushes and obsessions. And giving opinions that anger a lot of people online, which I love, to be honest. But yeah, just love talking about films and TV, the good and the bad and the ugly, to be honest.
Nice. Oh, that's brilliant. So we asked our guests to choose a film, as I mentioned earlier. And Sarah, your choice is?
Mulan.
Mulan from 1998.
I've heard a great deal about you, Mulan. You took your father's armor. Ran away from home, impersonated a soldier, endangered the lives of thousands of men, and destroyed my palace. But soon the world will know the great things you have done.
I had a bit of a moment earlier when I thought it might be the more recent film.
Oh, no.
But no. So it's Mulan from 1998. It is the 36th Disney animation film. It was directed by Tony Bancroft and Barry Cook. There are 32 credited writers on this film. Yeah. Including people whose story by, additional story elements, screenplay. There is a whole host of characters, and we would take up the whole podcast. We just actually got running through a list of these people, so I won't bother. The composer is obviously very important in all Disney animation films because there's a certain amount of music in all of them, and in this case it's Jerry Goldsmith. Now the cast includes Ming-Na Wen as Mulan, Eddie Murphy as Mushu, B.D. Wong as Shang, and Miguel Ferrer as Shan Fu, and there are a whole host of other characters in there, some well-known, some not so well-known. The story itself is about a young girl who comes to prominence within Chinese society in order to save her father from having to go to war against the Huns, because he is basically infirm and will not last a day on the battlefield. She takes up his place because the emperor has called for 1 member of each family to enlist, and it's usually a son that does this. It's never the daughter, because in the culture, the women folk are seen as being something entirely different to men. They can't do what men are able to do. Now, has this changed at all since this this actually happened? It's a bit of a strange one. So basically, Mulan takes up the mantle. She pretends to be a man, enlists, and works her way from a person who basically knows very little about action and war into somebody who then becomes a national hero. Quick overview, nothing too deep at the moment. We can get into all that. So, Sarah, when did you first see this film?
I mean, I don't want to age myself on this one, but the film did come out in 1998, and I asked my mum, I said, how old was I when I saw this film? And she said, you were 4. So technically, I was born in 95. So it's my first ever film I saw in the cinema. I think that's why I wanted to bring it up on this podcast, because I have such a clear memory of being in the back of the cinema with my mum, sitting quite high up in the seats, and no one was there, because this was the time before everyone used to work from home and, you know, go and do shopping in the middle of the day. Like, the cinema was empty because I wasn't in school, is what she said. So like it was just purely empty. And I just remember being absolutely like enthralled with what I was seeing. I'd already watched films at this point. I'd already watched like some VHS tapes at home, but this was my first ever cinema trip. And I just remember just being blown away by the colours. I remember everything, like all the reds and the sound design, being terrified as well. And, you know, such a great kind of, you know, Disney quote unquote princess to be shown, I think, at such a young age. I thought she was, at the time, a really good role model to see. But yeah, that image of me and my mum in the cinema has sort of stuck with me forever because of this film.
And the fact that the cinema was empty as well. It's such a good feeling, isn't it, when you go into a cinema and watch something and there's nobody else there? I've done it a few times, because I used to go to see films at the local cinema directly after my work, and it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there would be nobody there, and I would just jump in just before the film starts. And you occasionally get caught out because somebody coughs about halfway through the movie. You're like, probably did something and go for it. But yeah, that's a very good way to see a film for the first time. That's excellent. Mary, what about yourself? When was the first time you saw this?
I would have seen it in the cinema as well, albeit slightly older than Sarah was when this film came out. But I remember going to see it with my little sister, because there'd been so much fuss around it, and also in Glasgow, Huns means something very different to what it's portrayed in the film. So there was a lot of laughter around that at the time. But we were quite obsessed. We had like the PC game. We had the Mulan doll that if you washed her face, it had the white makeup came on and off and stuff like that. And it had like a little jade comb to go in her hair. Yeah, Mulan was a big deal. That the songs in this were so good, and even watching it back now as an adult several years later, I'm embarrassed to say that I'm still word perfect on several of them.
Nice. Well, my first watch of it was yesterday. I have never seen this film.
No way.
Yes, I've watched it especially for today's podcast. Basically, round about 1998, my son was born, so I missed the chance of. I was a wee bit too old to actually watch it at the time, and just the way that it works in that he wouldn't have been watching stuff like that as he was maybe 4 and 5 years old, and my daughter was born a couple of years later, so she was into different stuff after that again. So it never really sort of come into the household at all. I think she may have had like a collection of Disney princesses, or maybe I did, and I'm just not. I'm just not admitting it live on air or anything. But yes. My first watch of it was yesterday. Wow. So that's quite something, really. A person of my age watching a film that's aimed at young ladies more than anything else. Did you rewatch it for this podcast just to remind yourselves, or did you, like I said, Mary, you remembered everything about this?
Just the songs. I'd forgotten some of the scenes, but the songs are like they're all up.
Yeah, I'm the same. Some of the songs are on my gym playlist. Be a Man is like, on my gym playlist. But yeah, it was a hype up song. It gets me hyped in the gym at whatever time in the morning. But it was the little scenes in between that I'd sort of forgotten, like especially with the sort of the ancient sort of people at the beginning, and sort of with the army as well. I'd forgotten the interactions, just how witty it was. So it was really nice to sort of come back to it and get those kind of dialogue scenes in my brain again.
Nice. Do you think your relationship has changed with the film over the years, or is it just a memory thing that takes you back to a very happy time?
I've definitely watched it a good couple of times since originally seeing it. Oh, I don't know how many times I've probably seen that film. Don't know, 15 times maybe, something like that, and probably listened to the soundtrack many more. But yeah, I think it has kind of grown with me, and kind of, you know, some things still hold up, and some things maybe we could maybe look at differently with the 2026 kind of eye, and what's kind of politically correct and what we're saying to young girls. But generally, I think it is a good kind of timestamp of, you know, a certain culture and their kind of views on women in particular at this time. I think it does hold up pretty well, considered most films in the 90s do not.
Yes, we we have several discussions about films that do not hold up in any way. Especially we had one yesterday about Hollow Man, and that does not hold up in any way.
Creepy Kevin Bacon.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yes. Yeah. It doesn't age well at all. So, Mary, what about yourself? Has your relationship changed over it, or are you just still the wee Mary Palmer?
I mean, I still am wee, yeah. So I think definitely watching it back now, the one thing that took me out of it this time, and this is strange because I've never had this reaction before, but the one thing that took me out of it was Eddie Murphy's performance. Because I remember when I was little, like, that was really funny and quotable, and me and my sister would say things to each other, like lines from the film. And as I say, we had the doll, we had the DVD, and we had like a PC game as well. But I think this time around watching it, it felt like his performance, I don't know, maybe because it's just in my head he's Donkey from Shrek now. I felt like his performance felt different, like in comparison to everybody else's. It's quite loud, it's quite bombastic. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it felt different from maybe what I remembered it as a child watching it.
Yes, I can see that with the Eddie Murphy thing. A nice wee aside is that he couldn't come back and do Mulan 2 because he had signed on to do Shrek, and part of the contract said he couldn't do any other animation. So that was the
There
end
you
of
go.
that. Yeah. Yep.
Have you both seen Mulan? I'm guessing, John, you haven't, but May, have you seen Mulan too?
No, I don't like Disney straight to video sequels. No.
I did.
Is it any good?
Yeah, no, it's not good. No, it's about the three soldiers that she befriends. Like, they end up with like these princess brides that she has to like transport from one place to another. It's like a matchmaking thing, which is like a theme with Disney sequel films. Like Cinderella 2 is exactly the same. She tries to get the ugly stepsister's boyfriend. Mulan 2, yeah. Lion King 2, I don't know what happens there, but yeah, this weird straight to VHS sequel film. I was there apparently watching them.
Yeah, I've watched about half of Mulan 2 because I put it on directly after it, because as soon as it comes up on Disney Plus, it says you may be interested in. So I started watching it, and there was a noticeable dip in quality and storytelling from the start. It really, and it starts in a completely different way as well to the first film. So how would you describe the sort of style of the film, given that it's a mixture of very well established Disney animation and a more sort of Asian inspired palette in terms of the colors and the inspiration behind it? How would you talk about that?
I mean, what I was impressed with yesterday, because I watched it on Disney Plus, which I haven't. I don't think I watched it on Disney Plus the last time I saw it, but I was really impressed with the kind of animation itself just holding up, and the sort of the quality, but they've upscaled it to 4K, I'm not sure, but it looked amazing. But I guess my kind of stand on that is like, being a white Western woman, I think I like the inclusion of like the watercolors style, like, you know, the kind of calligraphy that comes with sort of Eastern cultures, and it provides information through like songs and storytelling element. And I think it blends it quite well. Obviously, you know, there's various, like, we've got Eddie Murphy, who's American, but everyone else seems to be, you know, appropriately cast as well, which is quite nice. But the art style from Disney and sort of including Eastern culture, I think still works quite well. I don't know what you feel, Mary, if you have any other.
I would agree. I think that, again, watching this around with a more sort of mature head on, I was really struck by, like, for example, it starts with the sort of like watercolor strokes, like going across the screen. We have lots of like rich reds and golds and magentas and jades. So the color palette feels like culturally appropriate as well.
Yeah.
And as you've said, Sarah, like the first thing I did actually was go and check the cast to see, like, had they hired like actual Asian actors, because obviously Disney quite famously has cast white people in roles of color. And I think the only thing that stood out to me was that Miriam Margolyes was the matchmaker, so that was maybe like the only sort of anomaly in the sort of in the voice talent list. But I think it definitely gives you a strong sense of time and place. And I'm sure as we'll go on to talk about like the battle scenes in particular, I was completely wowed by them, actually watching them again, just how good they are. Like the depth of, like, you know, the shadows, the horses across the snow. And there was a couple of moments that I thought actually were quite frightening as well. And I don't know how I wasn't scared of this slightly more as a child. But yeah, I feel like it tries its best. Ultimately, it's a Disney, it's a American commercial product. Let's not kid ourselves. But I feel like it tries its best to sort of encompass the culture in a respectful way.
Nice, that's good. Did you like the wee humble brag there from Sarah that she's got the 4K Disney Plus package? I thought that was quite a nice wee touch there. Yeah,
baller.
I signed back up to watch the film. I don't use it otherwise. I was like, oh, may as well.
Yeah. Right, so the film actually starts in quite an unusual way for a Disney animation, and it's in complete contrast to Mulan 2. It's quite a dark opening to it, where the Huns actually scale the Great Wall and basically set up the whole story. That must have been deemed to be a bit of a risk at the time to start a film in that way. And it's actually quite dark, and there's a wee bit of death implied there as well. So what did you think about that? The fact that they chose that sort of opening. It's unusual, to say the least.
Well, he's one of the most terrifying Disney villains there is. I will stand by that, because he doesn't have anything redeemable. You know, they try and make most villains, Maleficent, whatever, kind of have this kind of human element. This guy is just straight up terrifying. And I remember as a child being terrified by him, just those glowing eyes and the very much brown, kind of dark grey palettes. They kind of, you know, darken their skin a lot. Then, you know, they definitely, I don't know if it's appropriate in terms of how they've depicted the Hun, but yeah, it's brutal. And I think that sort of tone that comes up again later, that kind of juxtaposition of really light moments, and then we're sort of hit again with the reality of what's going on in China at the moment. But yeah, I'm sure if I was like my mum, I'd be like, whoa, that's shocking to see. It's not Hercules like we saw a couple of years ago, or, you know, other Renaissance Disney films. It's brave, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely in the eyes, the eyes of the hawk. His bird has the same eyes, and it's quite piercing. Now, Mary, you don't particularly like weird eyes in films, do you? So I take it you were a bit freaked out.
Yeah, we all know that my thing is bad eyes. I don't like eyes that are blacked out or made like milky or anything that they just shouldn't be in. It doesn't look normal. I don't like it. And this, yeah, he's definitely, as a character though, I feel like he is quite sort of animalistic. Like he prowls around and he's built like a bull, essentially. Like he's so stocky, but then he has these hawk eyes. And I'll be honest, I didn't remember that was the opening to the film, because I was like, oh, I love the overture, because it's a traditional musical overture, because it's got like a mix of all the songs. We've got the nice watercolor going on, the big, you know, sort of symbol clash with the red and Mulan and the dragon, and then all of a sudden it goes on to like death and destruction. And I didn't remember that was how the film started. I thought it started in a garden for some reason. So it is, I think it's quite a dark opening, but as Sarah said, it sets the tone for later on in the film, where we are getting into the sort of like proper battle scenes and the sort of like funky pop songs, and Donny Osmond sort of disappear, and it moves into something slightly more darker, which is good. Do you know what? I like dark Disney. I've always been more of a fan of the villains and the princesses. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, definitely. So let's dig into some of the performances. The main performance here is Ming-Na Wen as Mulan. What did you think of her voice work in this? Do you think it was good, bad, okay? What did you think?
I thought she was pretty good. I thought she obviously has to do a lot of range in terms of how she presents Mulan. You know, initially going to the matchmaker. She has to be quite, proper. Well, try and sort of fit into this kind of archetype. And then along that journey, she has to become not only Mulan, but Ping as well. So being able to play these sort of two characters. And I'm always admired by voice actors in general, just the kind of way in which they're able to do certain inflections that, convey certain emotions is just so impressive. And I'd obviously recognized Ming-Na Wen in, I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when I used to watch that back in the day.
Yes.
She's gone into such, and I think she's in Boba Fett. Mary, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's in Boba Fett. Yeah.
So she's had a really, amazing career after it. But yeah, I was, again, that's something I wouldn't have appreciated as a child. But now, hearing her do all these different voices and the range, I think she does a good job.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when we first meet her, she's obviously trying to be this dainty little flower. So there's a femininity to her voice. She's obviously trying to fit in with the matchmaker and do well by her parents. But there's also a lot of hurt as well, because her dad obviously is really unwell, and you can tell how devastated she is that he might be called up for service. And then I do like when she's trying to do a manly voice when she first walks into the army camp, and she's trying to be this new alter ego. And it's exactly what a young teenage girl would do to try and sound more manly. It's so spot on. So I really like this performance. I think it's, as Sarah said, there's a lot of range to it as well, and a lot of depth. And I feel like we get a really strong sense of who Mulan is really quickly. And part of that's down to the animation, but the vast majority of it is down to the voice work.
Yeah, there's a nice story around. Well, Disney seem to do this quite a lot with their sort of main actors. They don't just animate and then bring people in order to do the voices. They work with them. They actually look at their own mannerisms and how they actually move and everything. And so it makes it more personal for them. So it's more of more than just the vocal performance. There is a whole sort of performance element in it as well, because Mulan touches her hair quite a lot, and she uses that as a bit of a comfort and things like that. And apparently that's what Ming-Na does in real life as well. She fiddles about with her hair an awful lot and things. So it makes it just that wee bit more personal and real. And obviously it means that the actor can actually feed into the role a lot better than you would if you were just going in and sort of reciting lines and things like that. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. They've done that a few times. They tend to do it with the more comedic characters, the likes of Robin Williams, and I imagine Eddie Murphy as well would be in that sort of.
I think I remember seeing sketches of the genie when Robin Williams was in the recording booth. Or I remember seeing. And I love that, the hand drawn era. They used to get, Sleeping Beauty or whatever. They used to get actors dancing and moving in the room, and people would sketch them. I love that kind of hand drawn style.
Yeah. So we've already mentioned Eddie Murphy. What do you think of his performance based on 2026 eyes?
So watching it this time, I definitely picked up more on. He was definitely much more of a loud, abrasive character, like Mary said earlier. Obviously, going along similar lines with Robin Williams is getting the sort of literally stand-up comedian into these films and making it all around the jokes, or all kind of pivoting around this character. But then I also noticed more the kind of the sadness within Mushu as a character this time, and his kind of emotional conflict of oh, I'm lying as well. We're all lying about who we are and what we're doing. And I just love him and Cricket's interactions. There's something about their dynamic, and it's kind of almost like silent movie era, kind of having that Cricket non sort of verbal character and him sort of puppeteering it all. I really enjoyed that. I even had, like you, Mary, I had toys of Mushu and Little Cricket as well. I was like, are they from McDonald's or something? I don't know, but I definitely had little toys of them. But it was definitely interesting watching it this time around.
Yep. Mary, but you obviously have views.
Yeah, I think it just took me out of it slightly this time around. Don't get me wrong, the dynamic between Mushu and Cricket is great. And I love the scene where he's trying to cast a shadow of himself as this big, enormous dragon, and he's supposed to be really scary. And then Cricket's fanning the flames at the side. So I did really like that stuff. It kind of reminded me of It's a Wonderful Life. and how Clarence isn't good enough to sort of be the first class angel, so he gets sent down in this assignment. It kind of made me think of that, although in this case obviously Mushu's given the assignment to himself. But yeah, I think this time around it sort of took me out of it because I was very aware at times that I was listening to an Eddie Murphy performance as opposed to just sort of going with the flow of the film. But I mean, Sarah's right, like they've cast a stand-up comedian for that effect. Like that's what they want. They want jokes for the adults that have taken their kids to see this at the cinema. So I do get it. It just kind of stood out to me a little more this time around.
Yeah, I think when I watched it, I thought it was very much a reaction to Aladdin, and that they wanted similar sort of energy, a different character, a sort of different perspective, but they wanted something along the same sort of lines because you need that balance between, especially with this story, you need the balance between the darker elements and the comedy naturally comes from Mushu and the lucky, unlucky cricket, which I really loved that character. I just thought that was really good. The whole way it was introduced and everything as well, just absolutely loved it. I thought it was absolute perfection. So we obviously talked about the main cast. What about the supporting cast? What were your standouts in those roles?
I mean, I did really enjoy the ancient ones, I think they would call them. You know, at the beginning when she's when her dad's sort of calling upon them as well. Yeah, those sort of blue. I think they might even come up in the second film, John. I can't remember if you got that far. But I feel
they do come on the second film because they're trying to push Mushu out in the second film because he's been elevated and they found a clause to actually kick him out from the temple. Yeah, I've watched more of that film.
I think I need to watch
that. Yeah, I thought they were great, and well, they obviously do get more sort of limelight in the second film, but not many people have seen it. But yeah, I think they've got potential because there's 7 characters or whatever it is sort of around there, and they're all different personalities, shapes and sizes. I think the grandma's amazing. She's given some crazy like expressions in the first bit with the matchmaker when she upsets her granddaughter. Yeah, I mean the mum and dad, I don't really care about them, to be honest. It's just all like the army guys, they're amazing. Yeah. They just kind of work so well because they're such oddballs as well. So they fit really nicely with Mulan, who is also trying to fit into this dynamic. Yeah, I think there's a great supporting cast. There's not many films around this era that I can think of where the supporting cast is so good, really. Besides either a trainer or like a sidekick animal. That's the kind of Disney trope, isn't it? There's a bit of everything in here with that, with regards to you've got your sidekick animal, you've got the dragon. There's like 4 animals at one point.
Yeah,
there's a horse, a dog, a dragon, and a cricket. What's she doing?
Yeah, makes room for sequels. That's what that's all about.
Yeah.
What were your favourites, Mary?
So I really like the dynamic between Ling Yao and Qianpo. I think the chat between them is really funny, especially when we first sort of meet them and we get, again, just like a really strong sense of personality for each of the characters. But I also think that BD Wong does a really good job of Shang, because it's as far as I was concerned as a child, Shang was up there with Eric as being like one of the hottest Disney men, which is like all women have a ranking of this, John. I'm sure you're familiar with
animal and human characters, by the way.
Yeah. So I think he does a really good job of that because his character and Mulan are both sort of on the same arc, just slightly different. It's about living up to sort of familial expectations and the need to obviously protect and serve and be obedient and loyal and all the rest of it. So I think he does a really good job of conveying that emotion, and obviously initially the exasperation with the troop of fannies basically that he's been given to try and push into war.
That's what I remembered him on a Scottish podcast. Is when you said something like that.
I liked the soldiers, the 3 soldiers. I thought they were excellent. It's a really good sort of comedic relief, and it was interesting to read that they were actually reused characters, as is the Disney way. If you've watched any sort of Disney animation, they tend to reuse scenes and certain types of characters in different films, and you can actually watch side-by-side videos of these things, and the scenes are exactly the same, and like Robin Hood and like another film, and it's just totally spot on. But apparently these 3 characters came from the Aladdin television show. There was 3 characters. There was a thin one, there was a small, stocky one, and there was a sort of big, gentle giant type one, and they reused the basis for those as those characters, and I thought they were great in this film. They're just really like obviously the big sort of gentle giant one. He doesn't speak very much; he just hugs more than anything else.
Yeah.
So it came as a massive surprise when I watched the second one, and he had all these lines of dialogue and everything, and it didn't seem to work as well. But I liked the dynamic, obviously, and it helped with Mulan's introduction into the troupe and how they all started to get along. How there was a certain amount of antagonism to begin with, especially from the short one who just wanted to fight everybody, and he had a permanent black eye because that's all he did. He always would get into scraps and things like that. So I just loved that whole thing and the way that they all worked together. I thought, yeah, totally spot on. It was really nice. Now, with any Disney animation film, the music is such a major part of it. In this case, it was Jerry Goldsmith who did the music. And something that stood out to me was the fact that from the first moment that the film starts, there is music until almost the very end. There is a soundtrack or there is a song going on. Now, that's a good hour and a half worth of music right there. What did you think about that, or did you not think about that? Were you just kind of swept along with it at the time?
I think the music is completely, part of the story. It kind of is its own character in itself with this film. It's just so emotional. It tells the story as well. And a lot of it is not, it's not lyrical music. A lot of it is just instrumental kind of score. There's 4 actual songs, I think, that have got people singing on of it. But yeah, it's just, I think it's so iconic personally. I know it's not, you've got great songs in there, reflection stuff that people know. But I think as a score goes, I think it's a really nice blending, again, like what we were saying earlier, the kind of the Western and Eastern culture. I think it's got that kind of, it's got 80s synth at times, and then it's also got the kind of Eastern influences as well. So I love it. I think it's just completely transportative to this sort of time period and place, really.
No, I completely agree. I think I'd say I love traditional. Yep, I love a traditional overture because obviously I'm a big musicals fan, so I love that start of the film where you get like a sort of glimpse of what the big songs might be, as obviously like Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals tend to start that way. So I love that. But then it kind of acts like a sort of like emotional pulse throughout the film, because the film isn't overly long. It's like 90 odd minutes. But the pace is incredible. And I do think part of that is down to how well scored it is as well. Like, it's a film that really keeps you engaged through music, whether that's just like actual pieces of score or whether it's like the big belty numbers that we all know. I mean, literally 12 minutes into this film, you get Reflection, which pretty much launched the career of like Christina Aguilera. So it's insane how they're hitting you with these songs like so quick into it. But yeah, I think it's beautifully scored from the offset. And as you say, it only really sort of tapers off maybe kind of towards the end slightly when it's getting a bit more dramatic and heavy.
Yeah. The sign of a good soundtrack for me is one that you can listen to without actually watching the film. You can just listen to it on its own, and this stands up on its own, definitely does. Like I say, there's only 4 songs in this film, which is a little unusual. You usually get a few more in there. Do you think that's down to the sort of the tone of the film, that they couldn't really have songs in certain areas of the film, and they just sort of highlighted the more uplifting parts to have the bangers?
Yeah, I do think tonally it's probably for that reason, because it's probably not the time and place in a Disney family film to be singing about, war.
Yeah, the body's over here.
It's like Blood Brothers or something. But then like Hercules is one of my favorite other films, and if you actually look at the soundtrack, there's not many songs on there really either. It is a lot of just score. Like you have the first couple of songs in the first half, you got Go the Distance, Meg song and all that, but there's not many songs. Again, it's kind of like a 90s Renaissance thing, but with this one is much darker than films like that. So yeah, maybe it just wasn't, it's like all fun, joy, character change in telling, we're getting montages in these songs, we're getting, plot devices, pushing things forward, and it gets to about halfway. It's like, okay, we've got Ping/Mulan to this certain point, and now we've got the reality of what's going on in China at this point, and that kind of switch up. So yeah, I guess maybe it's just not appropriate to kind of put lyrical dance numbers.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
I love how you did the jazz hands there as well, because I'm now picturing a Shan Yu villain song where he somehow like whips off the cape or something and the Eagles joins in or something. I mean, I'm surprised there's no villain song actually, because a lot of like, even like Hunchback of Notre Dame, as far as I'm concerned, that's the best Disney villain song, because you get Frollo's Hellfire, which is super dark. I mean, it's literally about wanting to kill a woman because she won't sleep with him. So I'm surprised that there's no villain song, but actually it probably wouldn't have made sense to have one. This is probably just like that step darker, where you wouldn't have someone who's planning to massacre several villages suddenly burst into song.
But then there's also films, I know it's not Disney, but like Anastasia. Like, I love the villain in that, you know, but it's horrible. So they do it.
But he also has a good song. Yeah.
Yeah, he can't be a good villain with a musical background, musical theatre background especially, So obviously the singing voices are different to the acting voices for some of the cast in this. Do you think that makes a difference, or do you think it's just it serves the film better?
Yeah, I don't think... Well, I didn't notice as a kid, and I couldn't really tell this time, even though I knew that going in. And that's been a thing for a while, I feel. They've not really gone, I don't know, they've gone back around again. They have kind of got voice actors, something like Frozen and stuff. They've got them to do both parts. But at this point, it's quite common. But I can't really tell the difference when Donny Osmond comes in and it swaps back to the regular actor. I can't really tell. That's probably just my, ignorant ears. But fine.
No, I don't think it's unusual, because you don't normally see actors bursting into song if you're watching them in like regular dramas and TV shows. Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have very many musical numbers, so you wouldn't expect Ming Na to actually burst into song at any time. But yeah, I think it's fine. I think it works okay in terms of the fact it serves the film in a way that you're getting very, very good voices to actually do the singing as well. Yeah, and it employs somebody else. I mean, Donnie must have been down in his luck a wee bit, obviously, to go to Disney, although he did say that his kids only really acknowledged his presence once he said he was actually doing songs in the Disney movie, because he kind of discounted his whole career from the 1970s onwards, because it wasn't cool, but Disney was cool for the kids. So there you go.
That's fair.
I will say that I saw a video of Donny Osmond singing Make a Man Out of You live. Don't do that, because he's just like a middle-aged white guy singing. It's not cool. Whereas when you listen to it, it's like the ultimate hype-up song. Just those opening 4 or 5 words, you're like, yes, I can take on the world. But when he's singing it live, it does kind of take you out of it a little.
Oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
It's the age we live in. People never die. They just get older and older and just
Frankie Valley.
Down.
Yes.
Oh dear. We've mentioned the fact that it's Disney and Chinese folktale. So there's a certain standard that Disney have in terms of their storytelling. There's certain beats that they always meet in terms of, you've got a strong central character, you've got strong support, you've got at least 2 animals that can do some sort of performance and stuff. But then you're taking that with this story of Mulan, which is a lot darker and a lot more complex. Do you think it kind of blends well in terms of the, mixing and matching the different sort of styles of storytelling?
I think it does. I think amongst it all in the sort of late 90s, I think it's quite a refreshing, and as we said earlier, like brave take on for Disney to kind of blend this and kind of broaden their sort of storytelling, because typically before they are telling very like Western white stories most of the time. So I think this is, I think it's blended in a good way. It's kind of, brought 4-year-old Sarah into this sort of world of sort of Chinese storytelling. I didn't know who, obviously, the Hun were at 4-year-old. Don't know if most Western people do, but it's kind of, it just piques an interest, I think. I think that was an effective part of it, by having that kind of, choosing this kind of culture to kind of depict on screen. I think that's kind of start conversations around people's identity, blended families, gender roles. So I think it did it as well as it could at the time, I would say. Maybe better.
Yeah, I would agree with that, yes, yeah.
I think, well, when they've previously adapted European fairy tales, like your Sleeping Beauty, your Cinderella, etc., they've certainly softened lots of elements of those stories, because if you go back and you read the original fairy tales, they're incredibly dark. They're more like horror stories instead of something you tell your kid before bedtime. So I like the fact that, yes, obviously there's elements of this that they've softened or missed out, but as far as the sort of like essence of that folk tale, like they have kept it quite dark and they have kept it quite meaningful as well. As Sarah said, there's like discussions of like identity and family and duty and all the rest of it. So I feel like that tone was the right one to strike, rather than making it an all singing, all dancing, you know, typical Disney princess story. It's definitely not that.
Definitely, yes. It's interesting that Mulan is described as a Disney princess, but she's not. She's the only one that is not a princess, or can be regarded as a princess. So I thought that was kind of nice. You obviously touched on the sort of the themes, like gender roles, honor, expectations of family and society. Do you think that still works from a sort of modern gaze? And what does it say about us now? Do you think it's still relevant to now?
Unfortunately, I feel the world is going backwards. Not to get too dark and no, I think it's still relevant. I still think it's relevant to younger people, especially. Doesn't matter if it's the 90s or 2026. I still think it holds up and what it's trying to say about young women and kind of expectations. And there are cultures around the world, you know, whether you agree with it or not, that do have these kind of beliefs about, you know, hierarchies within families and their roles within that. I think, you know, there's even a line in one of the songs where I think one of the soldiers was like, oh, you know, I hope my girlfriend will cook, you know, she's a good cook. And I was like, I was watching that again and I was like, what? You think I'm just gonna be the one cooking for you? I'm like, no way. But, you know, in kind of jest, seeing it in 1998, you know, it's just part of the song and it's fun and whimsical. But yeah, I think it definitely still causes a discussion and questions about the kind of expectations of women. I think we can look back on it and say, this is that time period, hopefully, and just say, you know, this is what was expected of at this time. And that is, I can't believe you'd say something like that to a woman and, you know, you're confined to being a wife or you know, a cook or whatever it may be. Hopefully we can say that with many things in life. We're like, this is what happened then, but we've moved on as a society. It's not always the case, but I think on masses, I think people would look at this in a good way in terms of how it depicts women.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's definitely, you know, I like to get on my soapbox. But no, I think that as a young girl seeing this, I absolutely thought like, wow, she was like, Mulan was incredible. That feeling came around again when I saw Brave, not just because I was hearing Scottish voices on screen, which is obviously really important to me, but actually just seeing a strong female character, like not a princess who was, you know, just simply waiting around for a kiss or a shoe. Mulan creates her own fate. She actively takes her family's like position within society. Like she takes that upon herself to go and resolve that so that her father, for all his pride, does not have to go and fight. And I think that's really aspirational and admirable, and I think that we are seeing more of that in the Disney princesses. If you look at like Tiana as well, we're seeing more characters who are more in control of their own destiny, and I think Mulan perhaps is the sort of Kickstarter for that. So I think the only thing that kind of annoys me is that she does sort of fall into sort of typical gender roles sometimes, like for example when Shang is injured and she goes to nurture him, and then obviously the expectation at the end of this film is that she will marry Shang and that's it. That's everything sort of tied up in a bow. So that kind of annoys me, but seeing the displays of strength and determination and ambition and sort of kind of wild recklessness, which as a child would have seemed thrilling, now as an adult I'm like, I would not be doing that. But at the time, it was like really exciting that there was this young woman who was just like keen on adventure and spirit. So yeah, I think it has aged well. In terms of Disney, it's definitely one of the better ones in terms of presentation of women in particular.
That's so funny. I was thinking of Brave Mary when you said it as well. I was like, there's so many similarities. I suppose she's technically a princess, isn't she? In terms of the kind of... But they're very similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got horses, you know, rebellious women. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the arc that Mulan takes is quite important here, and it works well, and she's proving herself in her own terms rather than rely. She doesn't have to rely on a man in order to do it, and obviously she, and the whole romance part of it is quite low key, and it only comes in towards the very end. Up until that point, it's still he's the captain, and you know she's just a soldier. It was only when it takes a turn and she's revealed to be a woman, and you know disregarded from that point, and then again has to prove herself all over again. And the fact at the very end she is quite happy to go back home, but she doesn't go back home with a man. He follows her. He's pursuing her because he realizes what she is. And but then again, he has to be reminded by the emperor that was it only comes along once in a dynasty. A woman like that only comes along once in a dynasty, which I thought was a bit of a a wee moment there. It was starting to get dusty.
Oh, did you have you?
Oh yeah. It's not often you see that sort of thing, especially in animation. So yeah, it was quite good. So the film is only 95 minutes long. It doesn't outstay its welcome in any way, because they've got it down to a fine art, especially with animation, that they're wanting to be able to show it 4 or 5 times a day in the cinema, and they're wanting to keep it tight because people will enjoy the film, especially a younger audience. If you're sitting with a young child in the cinema, then you don't want them starting fidgeting and sort of looking around. They want to be able to concentrate on what's going on. So it has to be very well paced and all that. So do you think it works in those sort of terms? Do you think it is like a very well paced film?
Oh yeah. I mean, the fact I could sit through it at like 4 years old is crazy. I mean, I was a bit of a weird kid. I was watching, you know, Oliver, which is 3 hours long on repeat again and again. So, you know,
Nothing wrong with that.
Pretty good, pretty good for, you know, longer run times. But yeah, even this time round, I found it like a really good, tight kind of 95 minutes. And I think, you know, even in a world of second screens, you know, that the TV is becoming our second screen through the phone. I think even then my attention was held, and I'd like to think that modern audiences either showing their kids for the first time on Disney Plus or going to the cinema, I think it would still hold up because of that sort of tight pacing, and the music, like we said earlier, sort of helps to sort of carry that through. You're entertained, you've got the story, you've got character work there. And yeah, I just think it moves so swiftly, and we're jumping between various, you know, subplots, but you can keep up with everything that's going on. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the better, like, kind of three act structures that I've seen in a sort of kids film in a long time.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I thought it was very well paced in that regard, and the use of montage was done very well. There's a couple of montages in it, and they're almost like Rocky films as well, because the music, there's a lot of horns and everything during some of these montages, especially the training scene as well. Did you? I know you like a good montage, Mary. Did you particularly like that bit?
Oh yeah, I mean, the minute we have, as I say, let's get down to business, I'm like seated, nothing else in this life matters. I'm fully concentrated. But no, I mean, I couldn't believe how like sort of breathless it was, in the sense that there's always like a song or an incredible visual or jokes or a sense of threat that just really moves this along. Like it was over in a blink, I felt like, and I mean that in a good way. Like it's very well structured. The characters are really like well formed. It's not like rushed through it, but I couldn't believe when it was over, because I was just so thoroughly caught up in the story. It's really well paced.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's always a good sign of a film when you start watching it and then you don't look at your watch for an age, and then you find that an hour has already gone, and you think, Jings, how are they going to wrap this up in the next 25, 30 minutes? You know, that did it in this case. Really, really worked very well. So, given the fact that the film is nearly 30 years old, it's a couple of years shy of that, did you think it had some sort of cultural impact? Do you think it raised awareness of a culture that's not unusual, but is not really talked about in Western culture?
I mean, this was definitely my kind of first sort of introduction into kind of Eastern sort of culture. Besides, I hate to say, the Chinese takeaway in the town. Like that probably was our only other interaction, because that's all that was on, like consumable media, probably was Mulan. And there's no TV shows or anything that I watched that depicted Eastern culture. And what's interesting with this one is normally you'd think around this sort of 90s time they still cast a lot of white people in non-white character roles, like you were saying earlier, Mary. But I think they do quite well at this one. So I think even then, like those subtle things that you might not even pay mind to at the time, I think that does pay off in the long run by casting right and telling those kind of stories and cultures in the correct way through like their lived experience. I think, if you grew up with this film, like I did and you did, Mary, and like you could see the actors, like, on the red carpets. As I grew up, I recognized who Ming-Na Wen was, and seen her in other work as well. Like that's such a great thing for young people to sort of see depictions of themselves, their kind of cultures and stuff. So yeah, I think it was pretty groundbreaking. I'd love to have known, maybe Mary, you might enlighten us a little bit more, but kind of the cultural impact of that at the time, that must have been amazing.
I definitely think that this film benefits, as you said, from being cast right. I think we'd be having an entirely different conversation if this was a film that was full of white voices. Yeah. I do remember at the time, the Asian culture part of it was, for me, and this is just my experience, was probably kind of reduced to the merch that you could buy in the Disney shop. So it was like, as I say, like the little jade combs, or you had like the little like kind of wrap over dresses, that sort of thing. So I probably didn't have that full experience. I'm obviously a white person, but I'm sure that there was lots of young Asian girls in particular. Obviously, there's like a big like British-born Chinese community in Glasgow in particular who probably looked at the screen and thought, oh, wow, that's someone that looks like me and sounds like me. So I'm sure that there was a huge cultural impact for a lot of like young Asian actors as well, who probably thought that they were never going to be cast as, for example, a love interest, because we're still having those conversations now about Asian actors and where they fit into, screen, etc. So I definitely think it probably sparked a curiosity. Like I feel like people my age, you either went through like the ancient Egyptians, the Romans, or like Chinese fables, and there was probably loads of people that fell into the Chinese fables category as a result of this. But I definitely think that it's a film, as I say, that benefits from being cast correctly at the time. As I say, we'd be having a very different conversation if this was a cast full of well-kent American faces as opposed to actors of Asian origin.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, my sort of introduction to like movies and TV from sort of Asia was more like the Water Margin, sort of obviously feudal Japanese based, and Monkey, which is obviously based around lots of folktales and all that. So it's all very action based. So it's a completely different type of film. It's not about relationships. It's all about servitude and basically knocking 7 bells out of people with big canes and stuff like that. So it's kind of slightly different. But from there, that kind of led into like an understanding of like there's a whole sort of world of entertainment out there, and it comes from there. And this fits in quite nicely. It's a kind of a gateway drug, if you like. You use this type of media to, like say, explore and go on to watch further things. It's same idea as watching like Hong Kong movies, that kind of idea. That leads you into like a whole sort of series of Asian films. You may start with action films, and then you find out that some of these guys are doing horror films at the same time. So it just opens up a whole world for you, and I think it's brilliant. I think it works really well in that respect, and it must have had a massive impact at the time. Like I say, if there were toys and dolls and all the sort of accessories that you got with it, then it was a popular film. I mean, it made something like $300 million back in 1998, so it was
big
massive.
back then, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they were on a real run at that time, and obviously that did them no harm whatsoever. So yeah, I thought it worked particularly well. Do you think it's been diminished in any way with the fact that Disney have gone through this whole process of doing live action remakes of all of their most popular films?
I bloody hate these Disney live action remakes. I absolutely despise them so much. I think I gave some of them a go, early doors. I think I saw Beauty and the Beast, Maleficent, maybe one of the Jungle Books, whatever. I absolutely hate them. I hate the kind of the CGI-ness of it all. It's just not needed. It's not, Maleficent, okay, maybe you're giving us something different, a different kind of story we might not know from a different angle. Telling the same story again and again, I'm like, no, I don't want to see this. It was done beautifully. There's some things we can't convey in real life action that you can do with animation, which is beautiful. So I've not seen the live action one, and I don't plan on seeing the live action one. But I think loads of people were very annoyed when that one came out, and they were like, nah, I'm just going to watch the original. And I think maybe force people to go back and watch the originals as opposed to these new ones. But yeah, as you can tell, I'm not a fan of the modern ones.
Okay, Mary, obviously Sarah's on the fence with that one. So
Yeah,
what do you
I don't know
think?
which way I'm going to go.
I love how Sarah's drawn the line at Mulan and Chu. Like, that is the hard line that she will not cross. No, I completely agree. I think they're just, they reek of cash grabbiness, which I don't like, because there's so many, especially people of round about my age, where you were going to the cinema round about this time to see like peak Disney, as I kind of call it. So the nostalgia that's wrapped up in that first time viewing experience of, whether it be this film or The Lion King or The Hunchback of Notre Dame or any of these films that came out round about that time, the nostalgia that's wrapped up in them is so intense that to try and redo it just feels like somehow blasphemous. And like I said, this is not a film that maybe needed redressed because the casting wasn't right the first time around. So they were trying to sort of make up for that fact by casting Asian actors, etc., because that's exactly what we have this time around. I just think that there's so much of it that it, in a way, is almost reminiscent of the straight to VHS Mulan 2, Cinderella 2, etc. It's just a money-making exercise. And I just find it so grubby because it feels like they're pissing on my childhood and I don't like it.
Okay, yeah. I think you're both right. I think it is just a cash grab when you get the likes of the remake of The Lion King, and it's supposed to be. I know, how can you do a live action version of The Lion King?
God.
You'd be spending years trying to train lions. There would be several deaths on set while they're training them. And the fact that I think there was one scene in The Lion King that was not computer generated, one single image. So what's the point? It is really just to make money, and the thing is, they are making money doing them, they're not going to stop anytime soon, even with controversies around like The Little Mermaid not being properly mermaid coloured and things like that. So yeah, it's just. But even that, it's like Disney, in a weird way, Disney, I feel like, are trying to redress some wrongs by like doing like sort of colorblind casting, but their core audience is like ABC One's white people who love to go to Florida. Like these are not the people that want to see a black mermaid. Lots of us would have no issue with it, because spoilers, guys, mermaids aren't fucking real, so it doesn't matter what skin color they are. But their core audience is people that want to see a white, red-haired mermaid with a purple shell, Brad. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're alienating the people that are bringing in the bucks, as it were.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mary for president.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Disney's tactic used to be that they would just bury something, because there's the film The Song of the South, which has not aged well, and you don't get songs from that on any of the Disney compilations or anything. It's just been pushed away to the side completely, and it's just not mentioned at all. So maybe they're trying to do the right thing, but yeah, it does feel just sort of very sort of cashy grab.
Disingenuous,
Yes, it's the bottom line, isn't it, what it's about? So we've talked extensively about the film. What is your favourite scene from the film?
Oh gosh, I think you threw me a curveball there, John. I haven't written this down. A favourite scene. I do quite like the one where she's going into the little sort of lake, and she's having a little, she's having a little wash, and she's, talking to Mushu and stuff, and just about what's going on. And then it's obviously all the three guys arrive, and that causes awkward situation. And then she's like, she gets that, she's like, I never want to see a naked man again. And then it's just a stampede of all these like soldiers. It's just brilliant. And I remember, just to kind of date this as well, but back in the day on Tumblr, I don't know if any of you use Tumblr, but this was...
Oh, yeah.
I forgot how big Mulan was on Tumblr. Like that, I saw that GIF so many times. Like she's such a funny character in her sort of physicality, the dialogue, and I remember that scene, seeing it again and again on Tumblr over and over again. But it was just great. It was great seeing it again, and it kind of depicts all those kind of sort of gender bending films and plays I've seen, like 12th Night, She's the Man, those kind of, you know, oh, it's just so good in that moment to me.
Nice.
I'm going to take things in a completely dark turn because my
No.
favourite scene is the avalanche sequence, because I just think that the animation is incredible. Like, you have all of these, you know, there's, before that you have this like snow-capped battle where you've got like fire and arrows and screams, and then we have Mulan's full ingenuity on display. Like, she's cleverer than everyone else in that, you know, troop of men. So she obviously strikes the avalanche, and by this point Shan Yu is like this much away from her, like he's about to take her, and the snow just starts falling, and you see that all these horses, you start to hear them screeching, you see the shadows of the horses cast across the snow, and the snow just blankets everything. And then what I'd completely forgotten was we have this like carry moment where Shan Yu's hand comes back up through the snow because he's obviously still alive. I actually jumped watching it this time around because I'd forgotten that happened. But I just think it's so powerful, and it just goes to show you how phenomenal animation is, because you feel everything. You feel scared, you feel tense, you see how dramatic this sequence is, and you don't need, you know, live actors for that to be impactful. It's just an incredible bit of animation.
Nice. Really good choice. Really dark though, yeah. Which I've come to expect. Yes, yeah, quite. I really liked the scene where Mulan is transformed into the beautiful young lady to be presented to the matchmaker. I thought that was a delight. The way that it was all done. It pushed the story on, it introduced characters, and it kind of showed a lot about what the society is like and what's expected of young ladies within the society. And her disgust at the whole thing, you can just tell from the start to the point where she lines up with the other four girls, that she's just disgusted by the whole thing. And yet it's this upbeat, joyous thing where she's getting strapped and wrapped and, you know, like makeup put on her and all this, and just the look of it. And I just think it's fantastic. It's so well done. And you get real insights into what the mother thinks, what the grandmother thinks, and everything. So I just thought, yeah, that was absolutely ideal. It worked really, really well for me.
That's a really good montage, yeah. That's really good.
Yeah. So if you had to choose one element from the film, whether it be music or performance or animation style or whatever, what would you choose as the standout?
I think it's the music for me. If I were to choose, I think, because we said it earlier, it's like, you know, I was listening to the songs as I was making my dinner before this, just on their own, just the extra homework. And yeah, they're just so impactful. They're so characterful as well in the voice acting and the singing, the kind of blending of that. You know, I mean, there are only 4 songs with lyrics, but I think they can kind of tell the story. But then also the score itself is just beautiful. Like, I could probably, you know, just listen to that with a cup of tea and just kind of picture the whole film without even watching it in my brain through that. And I think that's pretty powerful. But yeah, I could say so many of the elements to this film, but I think I'm going to have to go for the music.
Nice. What about you, Mary? What would you say?
In order to avoid sounding like a parrot, because the music obviously is banging, I'm gonna just say I think one of the strongest elements is the villain, because I think that Disney does its villains really well, male and female, like throughout the sort of history of their animated works. But I definitely think that Shan Yu's presence from the offset it feels very threatening. Like, as I say, everything about him feels animalistic. The way he moves, the way he looks, his teeth look like sharks. Like, there's just something so predatory about him. And Mulan, like the drawing, the rendering of Mulan is just so tiny, you know, against the other men in this army, and the thought of this like enormous, you know, man sort of taking her away, it feels really scary. So I think that they definitely have created a formidable foe in this instance. And yeah, he's still really scary. Just a really, really scary dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I would go for the animation style more than anything else because I think it really stands out. It's the attention to detail that they have in these type of films. There was more than 700 people involved in the making of this film, and it shows the fact that they put so much effort into it. And it's the kind of thing that any sequels really diminish that because they're done more cheaply and they're more sort of stock backgrounds and things like that. But when you see it done correctly and you see it done well, it's just superb. It's a real sort of feast for the eyes. I think it's just fantastic. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So I think this is about, we always have a redundant question at the very end of the podcasts, and it is, would you recommend this film? Would you recommend it as an entry film to Disney animation? That's obviously a question specifically for all our preteen listeners out there.
I mean,
I don't know what you're laughing about. You haven't seen it. You're not preteen.
Yeah, yeah. That's a bit more sinister, though, isn't it?
I mean, I don't think it was my first entry. I think I probably watched like Cinderella or Pinocchio or something beforehand. But first cinematic entry was this film. Sorry, I think 100%. Like it's giving you the kind of familiar story beats you'd expect with the film, with Eastern culture and the songs, the animation, the messaging to not just young girls, boys. I think that 90s Renaissance era works for millennials, also older audiences, whether you like the old sort of hand-drawn stuff. I think it crosses generations in terms of its storytelling and artistic style. So I think, this is a perfect entry. If you've never seen a Disney film, this is the one to go for.
Brilliant. I kind of suspect you're going to agree there, Mary.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering in what lifetime you've never seen a Disney film more than anything else. Like, that's the question that's struck me. But yeah, I mean, listen, as I've said, sort of 90s Disney, to me, obviously, the nostalgia that's wrapped up in it is peak Disney. And I remember the songs. I remember some of the comedic beats. As I say, we used to quote it back and forth. I remember the look of the characters and some of the bigger sort of animation set pieces as well. So, yeah, I mean, if you have been living under a rock and you've never seen a Disney film, by all means, use this, as your way in. Because you won't be disappointed. That's the thing. It's a good time for everyone.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You will not be disappointed by this film. You will want to take it from here and watch other films of a similar caliber.
Mulan too.
Well, you're saying that, but you may enjoy Mulan too.
I might actually go watch it, I know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Chris, guess what we're watching tonight? We're watching Mulan. Yeah. So that is it for the first collaboration podcast. So, Mary, Sarah, I hope you both enjoyed the experience. And Sarah, where can our listeners find more of your output?
Oh, you can find me under Popcorn Chat on YouTube, TikTok. If not, Sarah's Popcorn Chat on Instagram. Where else am I on? Blue Sky, Substack. I'm everywhere. If you can't find me, well, that's something's going wrong. But online talking about films.
Yeah. Brilliant. Everybody knows where they can get the rest of us, Mary, so it's just the usual. We're on all of the normal social media channels. Just search for Moviescramble. If you like what you heard this evening, then please drop us a review. As long as it's 5 stars, we don't accept any less. We would be really interested to hear what you think about what we're trying to do here, because it's one of Mary's brilliant ideas, and we heartily went along with it. Well, they all count. As I say, you can get us on the socials, but you can also email us at podcast@moviescramble.co.uk. And if there's any other podcasters out there listening and would like to get involved, please, same email address, just get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. We have several of these podcasts lined up over the next couple of months, and looking forward to discussing a variety of films. But I must say, this was a very good start. Really enjoyed this. So all it remains for me to say is cheerio.
Bye.
Bye-bye.